Title: Shattered Trust. Chapter 1: The Perfect Life. In the picturesque town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, lived Daniel and Sarah Thompson. They were the epitome of a perfect couple, young, successful, and deeply in love. Daniel was a dedicated architect, while Sarah was a talented graphic designer. Their home was a cozy cottage adorned with flowers and framed photographs of their happiest moments together. For 5 years, they built a life filled with laughter, shared dreams, and unwavering support. They often spoke about starting a family and traveling the world together. However, beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic life, cracks began to form. Chapter 2: The first signs. Daniel noticed subtle changes in Sarah's behavior. She became increasingly distant, often lost in thought or preoccupied with her phone. Late nights at work turned into excuses for unexplained absences. At first, he brushed it off as stress from her job. After all, she was working on a major project that demanded her creativity and focus. But as the weeks turned into months, Daniel's concern grew. He tried to engage Sarah in conversation, but she would deflect his questions or change the subject. The warmth that once filled their home began to fade, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. Chapter 3: The discovery one evening, while cleaning. The living room. Daniel stumbled upon Sarah's phone left unattended on the coffee table. He hesitated for a moment, but then felt a surge of curiosity. A text notification caught his eye, a message from an unknown number that read, "Can't. Wait to see you tonight." Heart racing, Daniel picked up the phone and opened the messages. What he found shattered his world. There were dozens of texts exchanged between Sarah and someone named Mark. Flirting, intimate confessions, and plans to meet. Each message cut, deeper than the last. Daniel's hands trembled as he read through the betrayal. Tears filled his eyes as he realized that the woman he loved had been unfaithful. The pain was overwhelming. It felt like a physical blow to his chest. Chapter 4: Confrontation. That night, Daniel confronted Sarah when she returned home. The atmosphere was thick with tension as he demanded answers. "Who is Mark?" he asked, his voice trembling with hurt and anger. Sarah's face paled as she realized her secret was out. "Daniel, I can explain," she stammered, but Daniel interrupted her. "Explain what? That you've been cheating on me?" His voice rose with each word. "How long has this been going on?" "It was just a mistake," Sarah pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I love you." Daniel felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. "Love? You call this love? You betrayed my trust." He could barely contain his fury as he paced the room. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "It was a moment of weakness. I didn't want to hurt you." "Too late for apologies," he spat. "Hausk? You've already done that." Chapter 5: The Plan-In. The days that followed, Daniel struggled to cope with the betrayal. He felt lost and broken, unsure of how to move forward. But as he processed the pain, a dark thought began to take shape in his mind: revenge. He spent sleepless nights plotting how to make Sarah feel the same anguish he felt. He knew that confronting Mark directly would only escalate the situation, so he devised a plan that would hit them both where it hurt most. Daniel reached out to an old friend, Jake, who had connections in the city's nightlife scene. He needed someone to help him gather information about Mark, his routines, his weaknesses, and any secrets he might be hiding. Chapter 6: The Deception. With Jake's help, Daniel learned everything he could about Mark, a successful entrepreneur with a charming personality, but a reputation for being reckless in relationships. He discovered that Mark frequented a popular bar downtown every Friday. Night. Daniel decided to take action. He crafted a fake identity and created a social media profile that posed as a woman interested in Mark. Using this persona, he initiated conversations with him online, slowly gaining his trust. As weeks passed, Daniel played his role perfectly. He fed Mark compliments and flattered him with attention, all while gathering information about his life and relationship with Sarah. Chapter 7. The Encounter. Finally, after weeks of deception, Daniel arranged to meet Mark at the bar under the pretense of wanting to get to know him better. He chose an inconspicuous corner table where he could observe without being noticed. When Mark arrived, Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. He watched as Mark flirted effortlessly with women around him, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. When their eyes finally met across the bar, Daniel approached with confidence. "Mark, it's great to finally meet you," he said with a forced smile. Mark grinned, extending his hand. "You must be the girl I've been chatting with online. Nice to meet you." As they exchanged pleasantries, Daniel felt a mix of satisfaction and rage simmering within him. This man had betrayed him in ways he couldn't even begin to comprehend. Chapter 8. The revelation. As their conversation flowed, Daniel skillfully steered it toward Sarah. "So how do you know Sarah?" he asked casually. Mark's expression shifted slightly as he replied nonchalantly, "Oh, we've been seeing each other for a while now." The revelation sent shockwaves through Daniel's mind. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed felt like a punch to the gut. "Really? She never mentioned you," Daniel said, feigning surprise. Mark shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. "Well, it's still new. She's just been so busy with work." Daniel fought to keep his composure, as anger boiled beneath the surface. "You know she's married, right?" Mark waved his hand dismissively. "She told me things weren't great between you two." That was it. Daniel couldn't hold back any longer. "You think you know her? You're just another fling for her," he said coldly. Mark's demeanor shifted as confusion crossed his face. "What are you talking about?" Daniel leaned in closer, his voice low and menacing. "I know everything about you and Sarah. You're nothing but a pawn in this game." Chapter 9. The Fallout. The confrontation escalated quickly as Daniel revealed his true identity and intentions. Mark's bravado faded as he realized he had been played. "You think you can just come here and threaten me?" Mark scoffed, trying to regain control of the situation. "I'm not threatening you, I'm warning you," Daniel replied firmly. "Stay away from my wife." As Daniel stood up to leave, Mark grabbed his arm forcefully. "You don't get to dictate who she sees." In that moment of chaos, Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of clarity wash over him. He had allowed anger to cloud his judgment for too long. Instead of resorting to violence or further manipulation, he needed to confront Sarah directly, one last time. Chapter 10. The Final Confrontation. The next day, Daniel returned home determined to confront Sarah once more. Not for revenge, but for closure. When he walked through the door, Sarah looked up from where she sat on the couch, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Daniel," she began, but fell silent as he raised his hand. "Let me speak," he said firmly. "I met Mark last night." Her face paled as realization dawned on her. "You what?" "I know everything," he continued without hesitation. "I know about your affair and your lies." "Daniel," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm not here to fight or to blame," he said calmly. "I just want you to understand how deeply you've hurt me." Sarah broke down sobbing as she struggled to find words. "I never wanted this. I made a terrible mistake." "Did you ever love me?" Daniel asked quietly. "Yes, of course I did. I still do. she cried out desperately. "Then why did you throw it all away?" His voice cracked under the weight of his emotions. "I don't know. I was confused, I thought. I could find something I was missing." Her voice trailed off as she realized how hollow her excuses sounded. Chapter 11. The Decision. In that moment of vulnerability, Daniel felt torn between love and betrayal. He wanted to believe her words, but couldn't shake off the pain that lingered. In his heart, "Maybe we both need time apart," he finally said softly. Sarah nodded through her tears, understanding that their relationship had irrevocably changed. As they stood there in silence, both aware that they had reached an impasse. Days turned into weeks as they navigated their separation, Daniel focusing on healing while Sarah grappled with guilt and regret over her choices. Chapter 12. A New Beginning Months. Passed before they finally met again at a local cafe, a neutral ground where they could discuss their future without animosity. As they sat across from each other, memories flooded back, the laughter they shared and dreams they built together. "Have you thought about what comes next?" Sarah asked hesitantly. "I have," Daniel replied thoughtfully. "I think we both need time to reflect on what went wrong before making any decisions." Sarah nodded in agreement. "I want to work on myself first, understand why I made those choices." Daniel appreciated her honesty, but knew it would take time for trust to rebuild if they ever chose that path again. Chapter 13. Healing wounds. Over the following months, both Daniel and Sarah embarked on journeys of self-discovery, attending therapy sessions individually while focusing on personal growth. They learned valuable lessons about communication and vulnerability that had been lacking in their marriage. As time passed, they began to reconnect, not as husband and wife, but as friends seeking understanding and healing from their shared pain. Chapter 14. The Choice. Eventually, after months apart and countless conversations about their past mistakes and hopes for the future, Daniel found himself at a crossroads again, one filled with uncertainty, yet tinged with hope. He proposed they take small steps toward rebuilding their relationship, starting with open communication and setting boundaries while allowing space for growth individually. "Are you willing to try?" he asked one evening as they strolled through Willow Creek's vibrant streets decorated for autumn. Sarah smiled softly at him, a glimmer of hope shining through her eyes. "Yes," she replied earnestly. "I want us to find our way back." Chapter 15. Rebuilding trust. As they navigated this new chapter together, attending couples therapy sessions and working on communication, they faced challenges along the way, but remained committed to healing their wounds together. Slowly but surely, trust began to rebuild between them, a fragile yet resilient bond forged through honesty and vulnerability. Chapter 16. A new dawn. Years later, standing hand in hand at their wedding ceremony once more, this time surrounded by friends who supported them through thick and thin, Daniel looked into Sarah's eyes filled with love and gratitude for their journey together. "I promise to cherish you every day," he vowed sincerely as they exchanged rings symbolizing their renewed commitment. "And I promise to be honest and faithful," Sarah replied tearfully as joy filled her heart, knowing how far they'd come. As they sealed their vows with a kiss under the warm sun shining brightly above them, a new dawn marked not only by forgiveness, but also by resilience, their story continued, a testament that even amidst betrayal, love could find its way back, home again. If you liked this story, then be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the next ones, as well as look into our Telegram account where you will find a way to make money.